Good afternoon. Today we're holding a press conference to provide an update to the community on the recent homicide of Miss Sadie Roberts-Joseph. On Friday, July 12, 2019, at approximately 14:27 hours, we received an anonymous 911 call in relative to a vehicle with a body in the trunk. The address provided was 2300 Adams Avenue in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. One of our BRPD officers responded to the address and spoke to someone in the area who advised that they had not called 911. The officer was unable to locate the vehicle. At approximately 15:45 hours, we received a second call related to a vehicle with a body inside the trunk. That address was provided as 2300 block of North 20th Street. And the caller stated they wanted to wait for law enforcement. Now that location is approximately 2/10 of a mile. That's about 3 blocks from the location of the first 911 call. Our patrol officer arrived and located a vehicle parked in the rear of a vacant house. After further inspection, there was a body in the vehicle was later identified as Miss Sadie Roberts-Joseph, affectionately known in this community as Miss Sadie. The scene was immediately secured by our detectives, and our homicide unit was dispatched to the scene to take over the investigation. The location where the vehicle was found was approximately 3 to 3.5 miles from Miss Sadie's residence. The persons who made the 911 call were anonymous. They were concerned citizens, and we don't believe that they had anything to do with the homicide, and they have been cleared as suspects in our investigation. We immediately began our investigation into Miss Sadie's death. Our detectives immediately began following up on leads, interviewing witnesses, and searching for evidence during the midst of a hurricane. There is no information which leads us to believe that this is a hate crime. There's no information which leads us to believe that this incident was motivated by Miss Sadie's activism or her community efforts. Yesterday, the East Baton Rouge Coroner's Office released a preliminary report stating that the cause of death was traumatic asphyxia, including suffocation. There was a 1.5 time frame that our investigators focused on, a period when she was last seen alive to the time she was discovered. And thanks to the help of our Baton Rouge community and the work of our Baton Rouge detectives and the dedicated service of the men and women of the Louisiana State Police Crime Lab, through all those investigative efforts, we were able to identify a suspect. Today, the Baton Rouge Police Department arrested Ron Jermaine Bell and charged him with first-degree murder for the homicide of Sadie Roberts-Joseph. We believe, based on our investigation at this time, that Ron Bell was a tenant in one of her rent houses. We believe that he was behind several months on his rent. We believe around $1,200 was owed for rent. We still don't have a complete solid motive at this time, and the motive is still under investigation. This is still an ongoing investigation. I want to thank the city of Baton Rouge for your help. We received so many phone calls from the community when they learned it was Miss Sadie. Not only emails, text message, people who were on blogs. Thank you, Baton Rouge. Thank you for caring. We want to thank the family. So many emails and leads came from family members. This community came together. But I also want to thank the media. You guys helped us pushing out information, encouraging the public to cooperate. Thank you for that. Thank you for your coverage. Because all of that helped into our ability to expedite this investigation, make no doubt about it. And we appreciate that. So thank you to the media. Thank you to the Baton Rouge community for doing your part. You know, we say we can't do this without the community. And this is an example of when a community steps up and do their part, we're able to put these bad actors away. I want to give some specific recognition to the Louisiana State Police Fugitive Task Force for their efforts, the LSP Crime Lab for helping expedite the forensic evidence in this case. I know there's a lot of more work that needs to be done. Louisiana State Police in the use of their K9 Maggie, who's recently trained in the detection of electronic storage detection. Our Baton Rouge Police Department Intel Division, our Crime Scene Division, our Uniform Division, Louisiana Probation and Parole, and the most important is our detectives. We have some of the best homicide detectives in this country. Thank you for your hard work and commitment. Even in the midst of a storm, we appreciate your efforts on that. Now, we don't want to say anything that's going to compromise the investigation. There's still a lot of work that needs to be done on this investigation. So we ask that you be respectful of that when we cannot answer questions as it relates to investigative efforts. There's a process, and we ask the media to be respectful of that. And we ask you to keep their family, the family of Miss Sadie, in your prayers. And I'm going to ask Sheriff Sid Gotro to come up and say a few words.
Thank you, Chief. I'm heartbroken that our community has lost such a kind and selfless soul in such a violent, tragic manner. I've known and loved Miss Sadie for years and admire and respect her dedication to education and our community. I'm grateful for the swift action of the Baton Rouge Police Department and Louisiana State Police in finding her alleged killer and putting him behind bars. You know, as the Chief just said, and I want to echo that, we have a unique situation here in Baton Rouge. We have a situation in which local law enforcement, state law enforcement, federal law enforcement comes together and works together on a daily basis for things such as this. And I can tell you that the formation of the Violent Crime Unit, where our homicide detectives work hand in hand and side by side with his, along with the Crime Lab, State Police, has just been invaluable in situations such as this. So, Chief, thank you for your cooperation. Thank you for your dedication and what's being done here. I will continue to pray that justice is served as her friends and family move forward in healing. She leaves behind a strong legacy of character and faith. And I'll just speak briefly on my knowledge of Miss Sadie and my interaction with her. She was always the same. She was always the same person. No matter where you were, no matter what the circumstances were, she was always the same person. She was always caring and giving. And it's such a tragedy that this has happened to such a fine individual. Hate tried to silence Miss Sadie, but her voice will continue to ring strong for peace and love through the countless people she touched. My condolences to the family, and Chief, thank you for the hard work that all of your men and women did and working with the other agencies and as well to bring this to a fruition with charges made against this individual. I want to say, too, that this individual was in parish prison. He was there. He had a warrant for failing to comply with the probation regulations and failing to register as a sex offender. That's why he was in there, and of course when they developed him as a suspect, we were able to determine that he was there, and that's when Baton Rouge went back yesterday and made those charges against him. So we're just thankful that this wasn't a long drawn out thing where this guy was out out there in the community, and we didn't know where he was. But just thank God that it worked out the way it did. Hiller?
Good evening. Sorry to be here under these circumstances. First of all, my condolences go out to the family. Can't imagine what they're going through. Every loss of life is precious. And as you know, over the years here in Baton Rouge, we've lost a lot of lives. But it's always a little different when you know somebody, and you've been with them, you met them and talked to them. And when you speak to their family, it's just hard to make that phone call, just to even say, I'm sorry. There's really no words to say, but especially in a case like this. So my condolences to the family. Again, the men and women of the Baton Rouge Police Department, as well as the Sheriff's Office and the Crime Lab, and all the others that assisted, but particularly in this case, to those homicide detectives who were at the scene that day with the chief and I and the others, and storm is coming, their families are at home, it's getting ready to pour down raining, or at least thought it was. For them to work as diligently and as hard as they did, and to preserve all of the evidence that they did in the manner that they did, I appreciate your service. And it happens on every case, and it's not always the ones that we get to come here on these press conferences. I would really wish for them and all the other detectives that we had much more community cooperation, as we've seen recently over the recent past, thanks to the efforts of the chief and the mayor. Appreciate what you've done for that. That means a lot in this case. So this person is presumed innocent, just like anyone else in America. The burden of proof is on us, the DA's office. It's very early on in the process, so that we really can't talk about evidence, what we have, where we are, where we're going to go, because the case is not over. It'll be continued to be worked. And we accept our burden. We look forward to trying this case, and we look forward to bringing justice to answer. So with regard to his past, the chief indicated in the sheriff that he was in jail on a sex offender requirement that he register and do certain things as a sex offender. His previous arrest and conviction, to my knowledge, it's this one case, was the allegations of alleged aggravated rape in 2004 against a young girl who was around 8 years old at the time. He was eventually arrested in 2005 and then eventually pled guilty in 2007 to sexual battery, which is a sex crime offense. The jury had been selected and seated to hear this trial, and at that point, due to information from the victim and the victim's family, apparently at that time it was thought to be best that this person plead guilty to sexual battery, which he did. He received a 7-year sentence, and he served his entire sentence. So he is no longer under probation or parole supervision. However, since he is a sex offender, he's under indefinite supervision, and he must require by all of the rules and regulations and statutes that are in place to register and to pay certain amounts of fees, which apparently he did not do, or it's alleged he did not do, and that was the warrant that he was picked up for in this case. So as the DA's office, this case is very new. This family behind me is grieving. No decisions will be made at this time as to how we will proceed or what we will do. We're going to take our time like we do in every other case. We're going to let the evidence dictate where we go, along with the Baton Rouge Police Department and the Crime Lab. Once we receive that report and all of the evidence, we'll then sit down with this family and we'll discuss all the different available options that are here by law and by facts. And again, we accept this case. We look forward to speaking on behalf of Ms. Sadie for her in the upcoming trial. Thank you.
Since this heinous act took place, you have heard from the citizens throughout Baton Rouge of their love, their respect, and their admiration for Sadie Roberts-Joseph. Having known her for at least 3 decades, I can tell you, as mayor of the city, she was one of the standout matriarchs of Baton Rouge. She was a part of the fabric of Baton Rouge, and that is why you see so many people concerned about her death. We will make her legacy a priority here in Baton Rouge and East Baton Rouge Parish because of what she gave to so many here. I want to personally thank law enforcement, starting with the Baton Rouge Police Department under Chief Paul, our sheriff. I want to thank our DA for his role, and as you've heard, the many detectives that were boots on the ground working tirelessly to bring an arrest in this case. I also want to thank our state police and their lab for the work that they did. It was certainly a collaborative effort. And last but not least, of course, the citizens played a very vital role in this, in that there were so many leads, there were so many people who wanted to help bring closure and bring an arrest. Our prayers and condolences still continue for this family, but our love for Sadie Roberts-Joseph will live on in this community, and we will demonstrate it in very tangible ways. Now I'd like to bring up her daughter, Angela.
On behalf of the family of Sadie Roberts-Joseph, we would like to express our sincere appreciation for all of the entities that came together in this tragedy to bring this person to justice. All along this process, from the very beginning, being informed by the detectives, they exhibited ultimate professionalism, transparency, and a sincere, communicated desire to get this solved, to figure out what happened. I can't make it more clear that as heinous as this is and as difficult as it has been to go through, there was at least some solace in knowing and feeling that everything that could possibly be done was being done. From the mayor's office, from Chief Paul and the Baton Rouge Police Department, the coroner's office, district attorney's office, the sheriff's office, all of these entities communicated with us on a regular basis to keep us abreast to the extent that they could without compromising the integrity of the investigation, that they were doing everything that could be done. We really appreciate that. And for the community who now doesn't have to be worried at this point about having a person who would commit such a heinous crime to not just Sadie Roberts-Joseph, but to anyone in this community, any 75-year-old woman who would do such a thing. But we're very thankful. We thank God, we thank community, we thank law enforcement, we thank government that he is in the process of being brought to justice. And finally, I'd just like to say that all my mother ever wanted was for this community to come together. It's ironic that that happened in death. What she wanted to happen in life came to fruition in death. However, we will see to it that her legacy continues, that all of the hard work, sacrifice, and dedication that she put into educating our community about inclusivity through the museum, the Odell S. Williams Museum of African American History, didn't just focus on African Americans, it didn't just focus on Africans, it focused on how diversity has contributed, how multiple sources have come together to make this country the great place that it is. So we thank you very much for everything that's been done, and we look forward to continuing the togetherness that this horrible act has precipitated. Thank you.
Any questions before we conclude this press conference?
Harold Barnett from CBS News. You mentioned that this was a sex offender who served a sentence but then did not abide by some of the terms afterward. Is there any reason to believe that Ms. Roberts-Joseph would have known that a tenant of hers was a registered sex offender?
We don't have any reason to believe that at this time. Still in.
I have just one question for you, if you don't mind. How will the community remember your mother? How would you want the community to remember your mother?
Well, I think she laid it out there. She gave her all. Anyone who'd ever encountered my mother knew that she was relentless. And as much as I'd like to be at home right now, just wallowing in my own grief, I cannot do that to her. She worked so hard. She pushed. She got everything that she could out of the 75 years that she lived. Probably double or triple the average person. Certainly at least double me. She could outwork me at every point in life, and she did. So I think that the commitment to community service is what she had all of her life. The commitment to excellence, the commitment to inclusivity, and just plain hard work. Whatever you believe in, work hard at it. That's actually what I'm left with. For the rest of my life, I'm going to work harder at whatever it is I choose to be dedicated to. Just do your best. Give your dead level best at whatever it is that you're committed to.
Ask you a quick question. Condolences.
Thank you.
Family's loss. There are so many people in this city and in this country who are angry at what's happened to your mother. What should people do with that anger and that frustration they're feeling right now?
I can only tangentially relate to that. I'm still numb. I'm not angry. For several days I wasn't anything. I wasn't anything but numb. But for those who were and are angry, live a better life. Give of yourself to your community to make the whole better. Every effort that each of us gives to living well, to helping our fellow man, will make our society better. And over time, I believe that we can combat some of the negativity and some of the violence that seems to proliferate now.
I have a question. Do you remember the last conversation that you had with your mom?
Oh, yeah. It was storm prep. And that's another thing I didn't say. This great job that was done in the midst of a hurricane, in the midst of a storm. It was a storm for us in the midst of a storm.
Okay, that's going to conclude our conference today. Thank you for coming out. We will be, there are a lot of events coming up to honor the great work that she's done in the community. We look forward to seeing you at those events as well. Thank you.